Today's video, we're going to take a look at the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to examine their 5-1 loss last night against the Los Angeles Kings, and we're going to take a look at why they're having such a difficult time to start the season. And that's coming up next. What's going on? My name is Mike. If this is your first time here, welcome to Top Shelf Hockey. If you like keeping up with all the latest hockey news, stats, scores, and you want an unbiased analysis, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Alright, diving right into today's content, let's take a look at the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens suffered yet another loss last night, losing 5-1 to the Los Angeles Kings. Overall, the Kings outshot the Habs 42-37, so there's lots of shots on both sides. The first period started off with Alex Galchenyuk getting a chance to play up on the big line with Drouin and Petrie. And what did Galchenyuk do? He takes 2 minor penalties in the first period, kind of, not really making himself into good graces with the coach. The Habs went with Al Montoya in net last night, giving Carey Price his first night off of the season. Obviously, Montoya didn't have a fantastic game, but certainly can't put all the blame on his shoulders with 42 shots against. Certainly thought it was fitting that it was a 5-1 Kings victory. The numbers 5-1 keep popping up here all night. The Kings are now 5-1. The Habs are 1-5-1. And the score was 5-1. Let's take a quick look at the Montreal Canadiens summary so far this season, just looking at some of their stats for the first 7 games of the season. So they rank dead last in the NHL, 31st in goals for. They've scored a whopping 10 goals, which is really, an anemic offense. We did another video discussing the Montreal Canadiens' lack of scoring and how it could doom their season this year. We'll put a link to that up here in case you want to watch it after. However, it's still carrying on. So we'll get into that a little bit deeper here in another segment in a couple of minutes. But for right now, let's continue on with the stats. Obviously, goals against, they're ranked 30th. They've given up 27 goals. They supposedly have the best goalie in the world. The other big thing is that their power play has been absolutely anemic, which kind of goes hand in hand with having a lack of scoring and trouble producing offensively. They've only scored at 7.7% on the power play so far, which puts them in 27th place. Now their PK, obviously, which kind of goes hand in hand with having not great defense, is ranked 25th at a staggering 76.9%. Obviously, those two numbers aren't very strong. Now, the other thing which I'm going to make a point on, which a lot of people might not touch on, is their face-off winning percentage. If you watch my other video I did on the Montreal Canadiens, I pointed out, in my opinion, that the big reason, or one of the big reasons I should say, that they're expected to have lack of success this year, they really don't have a true number 1 center. Face-off percentage, they rank 24th in the league at 46.6%. If you're starting such a high percentage of the times playing without the puck, that just makes it that much more challenging. A Friday night in Anaheim against the Ducks, which will complete their California trip. If they, end up losing that game, which is going to be a tough one, coming off back-to-back losses in San Jose, LA, now going into the Duck Pond, I'm not so sure things are going to be too good when they get home. We're going to take a look at the forwards, the D, and the goalies, and see where there's some issues, and there are going to be lots. We're going to start by examining the defense core for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, lately we've been seeing their top 2, really, as far as performance goes, in my opinion so far, Shea Weber and Victor Mete. Shea Weber's been pretty much what you get out of Shea Weber, except obviously they haven't been clicking on the power play. Shea Weber historically has been a very top power play point and goal producer. We recently just put out a video on power play points by defensemen in the last 5 years. So I'll link that up here as well, and you'll see that he ranks pretty high in the league consistently year over year over year. Now Victor Mete, obviously, as stepping in as a rookie, my take on him is he's actually done pretty well. You can't fault him too much. He's young, he's inexperienced, but considering what he's had, he's getting a fair bit of ice time, and really he's done pretty well with it. I don't think you can put too much of this on him. Can't say too many bad things about him. He's actually done pretty well. But once you get away from Weber and Mete, it kind of goes downhill. I mean, you've got Karl Alzner, who's brought in on a pretty good contract. Historically, has been a very much stay-at-home defenseman who's always traditionally had a pretty good plus-minus. So far, Alzner's -5 this season. Now, outside of Alzner, you got Jeff Petrie, Petrie right now has had 1 goal in 7 games and he's -6. Now, I don't think anybody's ever mistaken Jeff Petrie for, an outstanding defensive stay-at-home defenseman. But he's not pitching in on the offense right now, and when you get a big old -6 on beside your name in the plus-minus column, things aren't going too well there either. Here, though, that's where they've really been having a hard time. They've got Jordy Ben, Brandon Davidson, Joe Morrow, who's been kind of rotating in and out. I mean, even Jordy Ben, who they brought in last year via trade from Dallas, who actually last year I thought did pretty well for the Habs, but I think he's another guy who was expected too much of. Really, Jordy Ben overachieved last year. He was a number 6, number 7 guy on most teams. So, once again, I think they're expecting too much. But they even had him out as a healthy scratch the other night, and he's swapped back in with Brandon Davidson. Brandon Davidson, Joe Morrow, not really big names back there by any means. I've never really thought Brandon Davidson was overly solid. Most teams, he'd be in the minors. One glaring issue with all these guys is they're not really mobile, puck-moving defensemen. In today's NHL, you need to be quick, and you need to be able to move that puck or carry the puck out of your zone and get that puck up to the forwards. And that's clearly a struggle for these guys back here. Defensemen need to get that puck up, and it's just not happening as efficiently as possible. However, with that in mind, it is surprising that they are getting as many shots on goal as they are. Unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of those shots just aren't great shots, and they don't have great finishers, which we'll get into with the forwards here coming up next. Let's take a look at their forwards. Obviously, there's not too many goals to discuss. Even sniper Max Pacioretty only has 1 goal on the season, which is really low for him. I mean, you've got other guys like Jonathan Drouin by far is leading their way. He's got 5 points in 7 games, 2 goals and 3 assists. I think Drouin's actually played pretty decent for the Habs. One of the few forwards we can actually say that about. When you look at the rest of the roster, I mean, you've got goals from Brendan Gallagher, Philip Deneau, Paul Byron, but none of these guys are really lighting it up. They all got maximum 1 goal each. Outside of Drouin, nobody has scored more than 1 goal, and majority of their forwards have a big minus next to their plus-minus category. They don't have a lot of guys who just have that natural scoring ability, who could finish the play and get that puck in the net. You can't argue with all these shots on goal. They run into a hot goalie every single night. Obviously, it does happen from time to time to the best of the teams. But you can't say that every night they run into a hot goalie, because that's certainly not the case. So yes, they're getting lots of shots, but obviously you could question the quality of the shots and the people taking the shots, that they just don't have that scoring ability. But most of these guys really aren't set out to be more than 3rd or 4th line players. That's my opinion, and that's why I think they're just not putting the puck in the net. I mean, they've got Max Pacioretty, who's one of the best pure scorers in the league. Brendan Gallagher is pretty good around the net. He's pretty feisty, gets in the dirty areas. You throw in a guy like Jonathan Drouin, really, that's not a bad 3 out of top 6. But then, Alex Galchenyuk is just, I don't know what to say about him anymore. In some past videos, I've defended his play, and I've said that the Habs were difficult in his development. And I'm not going to say that I was wrong there, but there are times when he just doesn't look like he's with it, and he's a little lazy, and just his heart's not in it. I'm not sure what it is with this kid. He's shown at times to have a lot of talent. I'm not sure why he's having such a difficult time showing it on the ice all the time. They really need an upgrade at the center ice position. The center ice position is quite often some of your top playmakers, top face-off guys, and as we discussed in the other segment, their face-off percentage is really bad compared to most teams in the league. So if you're starting to play with the puck more often, and you have a player or two with some pure finish and goal-scoring ability, that goes a long way. The Montreal Canadiens just don't have that. So by the time they return home from this West Coast California trip, I personally, if they don't make some changes, it's all downhill from here. If you look at Carey Price, he really hasn't been the best goalie in the world so far this season. He's off to a slow start, and which just brings me back to the point that a lot of people make, which I've made before as well, is the Carey Price factor in Montreal. Really, they'll go as far as he can take them. In the past few years, I really don't think the Montreal Canadiens have been as strong as a team as a lot of people give them credit for, because a lot of those statistics get masked by the awesomeness of Carey Price. Carey Price is normally fantastic in the goal, and kind of a lot of those other little underlying factors kind of don't get noticed or discussed as much because he's so darn good. Well, when you seen the other season 2 years ago, when he got hurt and was out 3/4 of the year, what happened? The Habs tanked. This year, you get Carey Price, not to put all this on him, but he hasn't been fabulous. And now look at them again. So it goes to show you that he really is the main player there, and they really are as good as him, and they will only go as far as he can get them himself. I would really take a look at Marc Bergevin and really consider a dismissal there. I mean, they've only had Claude Julien as a coach a short time. They signed him to a fairly longer-term, big money contract because of his history as an excellent coach. But I don't think it's time to look at firing Claude Julien. They really haven't been away from Michel Therrien that long, and I think it's too soon to make a move on Julien. And really, if you take a look at the other option, you got Bergevin, who's been there for quite some time now, and really up until the last year or two, I thought a pretty good GM, made a lot of good moves for the Habs. But this past year, I just really felt he totally ignored their weaknesses and did not make the right decisions to bring in the right players to fit what they needed. Difficult to fix all their problems overnight. If they need a top center and 1 or 2 defensemen who can be mobile and move the puck, that ain't going to be easy to go find. Most teams that have them certainly aren't going to be offering them up. So I'd like to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know what you think is wrong with the Habs and what they need to do to get things going better. So if you like this video, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button in the middle of your screen. And stay tuned for future content and keep watching Top Shelf Hockey.